morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Today's top story is about How to Train Your Dragon 2. And I was going to do a full movie bite about this, but then late on Sunday, lo and behold, I saw that Dreamworks Animation had gotten out there and had all the pictures, these pictures that had leaked for the sequel, removed from the internet. So since I have nothing to show you, I decided to talk about it today on Morning Movie News. And I think it's very exciting. Basically, the big reveal is that instead of just going back and picking up where they left off in the first film, they're going to pull a Legend of Korra and they're going to age up the characters. Not quite. Legend of Korra aged up the characters, but went to a new group of characters. But this is going to be Hiccup and friends as like full-blown older teenagers, like late teens. And I think that's very exciting. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it paid off so well for Legend of Korra because basically what you're doing is you're aging up your characters along with your audience instead of asking them to go back to the place they were when they saw the first film. You're kind of like moving the story and the studio and the whole package is moving along with the audience. And I think that's fantastic. I also think it's very smart to have older teenager characters because, as everybody knows on the internet, fan fiction and fan art, and particularly with the romantic variety, does very well online. And so I think if you make the characters age appropriate for romance, you might have a whole new second wind for the franchise and a layer that wasn't there before. But also the plot was leaked a little bit, and what it's going to be, don't worry, these aren't huge spoilers, this is just a setup. You would find this out in any trailer for the movie, and that movie comes out in June 2014, a year from now. But the plot basically is that everybody's very happy, Hiccup and everyone living with the dragons. That's the whole movie, they're all very happy now. They're very happy living with dragons in harmony, but then Dragon Hunter and his army called, and this guy's name is Drago, which I think is, very similar, obviously, to Harry Potter, comes and they're dragon hunters. And so Hiccup has to lead the Viking forces with the dragons to fight this other guy and his dragon hunter forces. So it sounds like you're going to have a lot more fighting, too, which is also for an older demographic. So this sounds really exciting. I think that a lot of animated movies are very cute these days, so I'm interested to see Dreamworks Animation maybe move into more adult, romantic, action-oriented film. I think How to Train Your Dragon is the perfect franchise for that because it had very grown-up themes even in the first film with the injury that Hiccup sustains at the end of the film. I really liked that. I was just talking to somebody the other day about how we felt that was a really appropriate adult theme to be addressed in a family film, and it was addressed appropriately. Sometimes, the argument basically was that sometimes Pixar is a little manipulative with emotions, and they go there just because they go to a darker place just because they know they can or because they know the reaction will elicit from you, and it's not always particularly organic. But I think that in How to Train Your Dragon, that was an example of just going far enough and not going over the top in an effective manner. But I love this. I'm very excited. I love the first How to Train Your Dragon. The flying sequences in IMAX 3D were amazing. So if you missed the first one in IMAX 3D, you're going to want to check out the second one in that format. So that's the first story of the day. The second story is pretty interesting. So late yesterday, it was made official. Jeff Robinov is not coming back to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers upped 2 internal personnel. One and the big person who's going to overlook movies is Toby Emmerich, who is the head of New Line, and he's going to continue actually a little bit in that position, but just add on the duties of overlooking the rest of the Marvel slate. I think that Toby Emmerich's, he doesn't have nearly the track record that Robinov does. His biggest claim to fame is the Lord of the Rings films, which obviously is a great claim to fame, but that's it. That's just, and everything else is, some horror films, more genre, more B-level films than I think the tentpole blockbuster pictures and, of course, the Oscar winner Argo that Robinov put out. But this is where the story gets really interesting. A number of you, when I broke this news last week, you said, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if Nolan went over to Marvel now? And of course, that's not going to happen, but you kind of got your wish because there's heavy speculation that Robinov is going to go to Fox, and we all know that Fox has a lot of Marvel properties that they are completely driving into the ground. So it would be just fantastic for the studio, and Fox really wants Robinov largely because of the talent he would bring. We're talking, as I said, Nolan, Zack Snyder, Ben Affleck, Baz Luhrmann. that he would bring these filmmakers over to Fox. So you aren't going to get Nolan playing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that Disney and Marvel are building, but you very well might get him, or at least his influence, or this group of filmmakers, maybe Ben Affleck even, on an X-Men film or a Fantastic Four film, although, Josh Trank is handling Fantastic Four reboot, but who knows what could happen if they bring that talent into the mix. I would really like that. I think Fox has some great properties, and sometimes they do a good job. Life of Pi, Avatar, that's all Fox. But I feel that they don't have as high attention to story as possible. Now, I know some of you have been saying, oh, but Grace, you wanted Nolan off of the DC Cinematic Universe because you felt his heart wasn't in it, so why would you want him to see him go over to Fox? It's exactly what I said. I think Nolan's heart isn't in it, and that's why he should leave. I think that does not detract from my thinking that Nolan is a talented filmmaker. I just feel that if someone isn't going to put all their creative energies into something, they should get out of the way. So, but to see, and maybe Nolan will be re-energized to kind of have some revenge against Warner Brothers after they treated his pal Jeff Robinov. So I think that's fascinating to have that kind of roundabout way that the DC powerhouses do kind of end up at Marvel, and it would be a huge coup for Fox, who desperately needs that kind of injection of talent right now behind the camera. The other side note on this story, also developing, is that Legendary Pictures, which was really a big partner with Robinov, even though they didn't really, Thomas Tull, I interviewed him on the red carpet for Man of Steel, even though he didn't really get along very well with Jeff Robinov, they were working together there, and Legendary Pictures produced all of the Batman, all the DC Cinematic Universe movies you've liked. Legendary was behind it. They're also behind Pacific Rim. They produced Jack the Giant Slayer, which I actually watched the other day on video, and I thought it was really good. It's not amazing, and I was surprised at how bad the special effects were at certain points, but I still really liked the film. It was one of those amazing rentals where you're like, wow, and you kind of think maybe you should have seen it in theaters, but you probably wouldn't have liked it as much if you had. But anyway, the story is that Legendary is now seriously considering jumping from Warner Brothers as well. So they will lose Robinov and his team, and then also Legendary. And Legendary is thinking, the latest news, they've been going all over town. Everyone thought they were maybe going to go to Universal. Thomas Tull has had a number of meetings there, but now people are thinking he might even go with Summit, which would be huge for that studio because they are kind of like a second-tier studio. They aren't as big as like the Warner Brothers and the Universals. They do have major pictures. I mean, don't forget Summit Lionsgate has Twilight and also now Hunger Games, and they have Ender's Game coming up. They are on the rise, and to have Legendary join with them, and Legendary has all its own financing. Legendary is a fascinating company. If you have some time, you should look into them. They're really great, and Thomas Tull has just a huge piggy bank of money. He 75% self-finances his films, which gives him huge creative control over them, which is very impressive. But he wants an even sweeter deal, which is why he might go to Summit, and that would be amazing. So also the final story of the day is that you might have heard that once again, Helena Bonham Carter has landed another role. She just works so often, but yet I feel, put so little effort into these roles. She just shows up and plays herself. This time, I feel she's hugely miscast. She's been added to Disney's Cinderella, darker Cinderella reimagining, with Cate Blanchett as the evil stepmother, and Helena Bonham Carter will be the fairy godmother. And I just am so not excited about it because I can tell you right now what Helena Bonham Carter is going to do in the role. I just don't understand there was a period of time I really liked her. I really liked her in Alice in Wonderland as the Red Queen. I think she does a nice job sometimes, but it's like a little like Johnny Depp. You just get so tired of the same thing that you just don't want to see it anymore. So I think that's a major strike against this Disney Cinderella, and so I hope that they can kind of pull out of it, but that's a big strike against it for me. So not a lot of questions for today's episode that were asked for, because a lot of you were really, the hot button topic of yesterday was surprisingly not Jim Carrey. A lot of people talked about that, but a lot of you really were invigorated about this discussion about whether or not Johnny Storm the race should be changed and Michael B. Jordan should play him and turn the character into a black character. And I said yesterday, you can check out my video, I said that I felt that I was actually against that, and because I felt that it would take focus away from the story. And a number of you, a lot of you agreed with me, but there was a small contingent that was like, oh, Grace, but you're always talking about diversity. How could you be against an interracial relationship for Reed Richards and Sue Storm and bringing diversity to the Fantastic Four? I think that, just because I'm for diversity doesn't mean I'm blindly for it in every scenario. I think sometimes it's appropriate. I think sometimes it's not. For instance, as someone pointed out yesterday, I'm very in favor of Jamie Foxx's Electro, and I thought Lawrence Fishburne was really great as Perry White. I didn't like how the character was written. I thought there was a huge character flaw that he didn't want to, he didn't want to report a major story, even though he was a journalist. but I thought he did a great job in the role, and I thought that was something that was great for the role and reinvigorated it, and it needed that. And I think Electro is also a character that needs this jump. But as I said with Fantastic Four, I think that if you add the race card in there, that becomes the story. It doesn't become this group of scientists that becomes a family because of going through, whatever thing gives them their powers in space. It just becomes, now they're a family of the future, and it adds this whole element to that. And I think it wouldn't be organic. It would take the focus away, and that's all anybody would pay attention to. The media, that's all they would pay attention to. And as I said, it's not even a fresh idea because they already cast Jessica Alba as Sue Storm last time, so it's not even fresh. So I'm not against interracial relationships, and I'm not against them in film. I have no problem with them whatsoever. I just feel here it doesn't work, and I think that it takes away from the core story of the Fantastic Four. And while I'm all for racial diversity, I think this is a great opportunity to do something with age diversity. As I said, I think that it's important for all of us who are promoting diversity to not always go to the same place. It shouldn't always just be about race. I think that's very important. I think we should never lose sight of that. But let's not forget to also change genders, to change... I would love to see sometimes a male character change to female. That would be really refreshing. So I would love to see that. I would love to see, as I said yesterday, socioeconomic. So I would please ask you, I'm a huge proponent of diversity, but as I said, I'm not going to just do it every time just for that sake. So I would hope that you would also take that into mind as well. So thanks for allowing me to clear that up. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Morning Movie News, and stay tuned for more episodes later today, and write down questions you'd like answered tomorrow and any topics you might want covered. Thanks for watching. Bye.